a lot is happening internationally at the moment with the Code of Ethics, and we are very happy that you will take us through the process and the status quo. And to all of you, we are recording this meeting, or to be more accurate, we are recording the first part of the meeting. When Sally has finished her presentation, we will stop recording and we open for questions. And I have followed social media a little bit, and I can see that there is quite some interest for what is going in the US, at the moment, in museums and political changes affecting museum professionalism. And Sally, you said it would be okay to ask some questions after the presentation. So we start about the Code of Ethics. And if there is time left, every one of you is very much welcome to ask questions about what is going on also in other parts of the museums in the US. To just say a few words from my side before I leave the floor to you, Sally. As all of you know, there have been quite a process of revision of the ethical guidelines for museum in Norway just a few years ago. We started in 2019, ICOM Norway and the Norwegian Museum Association, and the process lasted for 3 years. And it was really interesting because for me, who had the pleasure to be in that process, and now I'm a member of the core group with which Sally is leading in ETHCOM, it's interesting to see the parallels here. Because we went out and asked every museum in Norway, what do you think, which values are most important today in 2019 to take care of? How should we work? What should we really point to as one of the most important aspects to work on in Norway today? And what you came up with, all of you and all the museums who contributed to the new ethical guidelines, is basically very, very much in line with what we now see internationally. So it's really interesting that samfunnsrolle, as we say in Norway, and society, as Sally soon will talk more about, is really on the top of what is important for museums today to work with and concentrate on. And also sustainability or bærekraft really went to the top. So Sally, I think I will leave the floor to you. No, I can also say, sorry, Chetlia, I haven't introduced you. We have also one more member of the core group here, Chetlia Anabi. So I'm very happy to have you here as well. And again, Sally, thanks for taking the time. It's a pleasure to have you here. And we are looking forward to a status quo of the revision of the Code of Ethics as of today.
Thank you, Kathrin. It's a real pleasure to be here. And also to be talking with a group of people who have been very engaged in thinking about ethics.
Is it working now?
Perfect. Yep.
Okay, thank you. So Sally, just give me a sign when you want me to change.
Okay. Okay, you can move to the next slide. Let's, yeah. So, good afternoon, everyone. Anyway, today I'm going to go through the process that we've been involved with in revising the Code of Ethics, the ICOM Code of Ethics for museums, because I know that you're all engaged in thinking about ethics in Norway, as well as in thinking about the global code. I'll just go quickly over some of the deep background. As you know, the Code of Ethics is a core document for all ICOM members. We're now working on the 3rd revision of the code. It was initially adopted in 1986, and it was amended, changed, reorganized, and adopted again in 2004. So 20 years later, we're taking another look at the Code of Ethics and working with the ICOM membership to make it apply to museums today, and we hope almost 20 years into the future, if that's possible these days. Next slide, please. So in the during the discussion of the museum definition in Kyoto in 2019, the Standing Committee on Ethics in ICOM realized that while there was at that time a certain amount of disagreement about the museum definition, there was in fact an agreement among ICOM members about the values that museums share, and also about the values that were becoming more important and that weren't totally expressed in the 2004 Code of Ethics. So we recommended at that time that that ETHCOM be charged with a review of the Code of Ethics, and a decision be made then about whether the code should be revised. So our first at that point, we created a methodology for the revision that was iterative, transparent, and as much as possible representing the opinions of the ICOM membership. Our first consultation was in 2021. And in that consultation, we asked the membership if the code should be revised, and if it should give us we asked that they give us some idea of what was missing in the 2004 code. We had an overwhelming majority of the members say yes, it was time to revise the code, and we had a number of people asking that certain new concepts or new issues be included in the code. And one of those was sustainability. Another one was the role of museums in society. Things that, as Kathrin pointed out, are included in the Norwegian Code of Ethics. We then decided we should have a more in-depth consultation with the membership, and in 2022 we had our second consultation, which went through the 2004 code principle by principle, asking what should be changed, added, or deleted. That gave us a general outline for the new code and a general sense of the main issues that should be involved in the new code. We then created an outline from the results of the second consultation and made that outline the subject of the third consultation in 2023. The third consultation confirmed the priorities that were mentioned in the second consultation and added others to the list of things that people felt should be included in the code. And then last year in the fall, you may remember that we had a detailed review of the first draft. And that review resulted in the second draft, which is the subject of the fourth consultation this year. Last year's review examined the code's 5 core principles and sought feedback from the national and international committees, regional alliances, and affiliated organizations on the first draft. We were really pleased. Next slide. These are the 5 core principles, which I'll talk about in more detail as we go through the presentation. But these 5 principles, society, education, professionalism, governance, and collections, were identified as the main issues that should be addressed in the code. And we were also directed by the membership to make all of the principles equal. They stressed that they wanted a code that had non-hierarchical principles, because they felt that all 5 principles were really equally critical to the functioning of an effective museum. The 5 principles include how museums serve society, on professionalism, on how museums promote knowledge sharing through their educational programs, publications, and exhibitions. The 4th principle is collections and research, focusing on the museum's role in researching, collecting, conserving, and interpreting intangible and tangible heritage. And then the 5th principle examines how museums' governing bodies provide strategic direction and oversight to uphold their not-for-profit status and longevity. Next slide. So last year's review of the first draft of the revision provided really invaluable feedback for our work. The core group of people working on the revision of the code and ETHCOM both are grateful for the comments that we received from 74 of the national and international committees, regional alliances, and affiliated organizations. We also received comments from the working groups and standing committees, which we considered in the revision. And we were also pleased that 60% of the respondents to the last to the survey in the fall were satisfied with the 5 core principles and the general shape that the revision was taking. Next slide. The survey respondents provided substantive and constructive suggestions and comments, which we organized and reviewed repeatedly as we created the code's second draft. And we hope that you can see that the evidence of that in the draft. There were a total of 76 pages of detailed comments that were broken down in the following way. There were 19 pages of general comments, 13 pages of comments for Principle 1, 11 for Principle 2, 9 for Principle 3, 15 for Principle 4, and 9 pages of comments on Principle 5. Next slide. As with the previous work on the code, we worked in a team of 6 ETHCOM members. And to start, we reviewed and discussed all of the comments. We worked in pairs, analyzing each comment and finding points of consensus to create a revised principle and supporting statements. As a group, then, we discussed each principle statement by statement, noting the comments that led us to the conclusions. We also tried to pay close attention to repetitions and redundancies and to the language that we were using. Next slide. We found in the comments clear points of consensus. Some of those were that the ICOM members wanted a greater consideration of digital technologies, including AI. A discussion there both of the risks involved in the use of technologies, as well as their value for research and documentation. Respondents also wanted a recognition of the museum's role in upholding human rights and promoting social justice. Next slide. Members wanted to see provenance research mentioned beyond its association with colonial collections. They asked that we address the social, environmental, and financial dimensions of sustainability throughout the code. The code should also treat illicit trafficking of heritage, as well as the restitution and return of stolen objects and the repatriation of collections to source communities, and especially Indigenous peoples. In addition, members noted that with more accurate, affirmative, and operational language, the revised code should translate aspirational ethical duties and values into applicable standards that will guide museum professionals towards responsible decision-making. Next slide. For Principle 1, respondents noted that museums serve society by being accessible, inclusive, and upholding human rights. They should operate as an open space of dialogue for diverse communities and social groups, and this dialogue should benefit the protection, transmission, and interpretation of heritage. Environmental and financial sustainability are also part of a museum's social responsibility. Next slide. Then this is the first principle that resulted from the comments that we received. Focuses on museums serving society by being accessible, inclusive, and collaborating with diverse communities to protect and interpret tangible and intangible heritage, and caring for their past, presents, and futures. By embracing different perspectives on heritages, museums operate as spaces for dialogue, upholding human rights, practicing social justice, and promoting peace and unity. For Principle 2, next slide. For Principle 2, the comments focused primarily on the museum workforce. The ICOM network of respondents identified ethical engagements that involve all levels of museum professions, from museum decision makers and members of the museum profession to all people who work in and with museums. Members told us that it is essential that museums provide continuous training to ensure that museum staff and volunteers to make sure that their professional knowledge and competencies are maintained and up to date so that the museum's mission may be fulfilled. So the second principle now is as follows. Next slide. It states that to sustain society's trust, museums operate and communicate ethically and according to professional standards. This entails responsibilities for members of the museum professions, including those in leadership roles, and for everyone who works in and with museums. Next slide. Principle 3 reflects ICOM members' belief that museums' educational programs, exhibitions, and publications should employ participatory, collaborative, and inclusive approaches to knowledge sharing. To maintain museums' integrity and the integrity of the profession as a whole, ICOM members underscored that accurate, reliable, and credible information should be provided in all educational programs, exhibitions, and publications. And the membership also underlined the fact that museums have a responsibility to demonstrate respect in approaching, exhibiting, and publishing sensitive materials, especially ancestral and human remains. Collaboration with Indigenous peoples and source communities is essential in this regard. Next slide. So the third principle now reads, museums' educational activities and practices should be based on ongoing knowledge sharing and dialogue. You'll note as well that the principles and the statements in the code are reflective of the new museum definition. Next slide. In discussing the fourth principle on museums, on collections, the respondents that we had from ICOM told us that museums' responsibilities toward their collections are fundamental. Members emphasized that the security, documentation, conservation, and restoration of collections should be ensured. At the same time, accessible and collaborative research should be guaranteed, and knowledge should be transmitted for the benefit of the whole of society. Following the 2004 code, members follow thorough acquisition, accessioning, deaccessioning, and disposal procedures by carrying out exhaustive provenance research and due diligence, thereby contributing to the fight against illicit trade and trafficking. Next slide. So the fourth principle concerning collections and research now states museums collect, safeguard, and display tangible and intangible heritage. They should ensure the security, documentation, conservation, and restoration of the collections they hold. Museums conduct research and transmit knowledge in trust for society, respecting diverse perspectives and the rights of source communities. Next slide. For Principle 5, ICOM members stressed that museum governing bodies should ensure the professional, physical, and financial resources that enable museum professionals to fulfill their duties. These bodies should demonstrate transparency and accountability And by having clear and comprehensive policies, as well as open and transparent communication channels with external partners, museum governing bodies should support professional autonomy and integrity, and a strong commitment to inclusive leadership that reflects the diversity of the society that the museum represents is an essential commitment for the museum governing entity. Next slide. Again, just to repeat the principle as it now stands in the second draft of the code, governing bodies and those concerned with the strategic direction and oversight of the museum are responsible for the long-term sustainability of their institution by securing the professional, physical, and financial resources necessary to maintain the museum and serve communities. You will see these points and more in the second draft of the code, and we hope that you will help us fine-tune the statements and descriptions so they will help guide your work. Next slide. Next. Kathrin, do you have the next slide? It looks like you're frozen.
Oh, you want?
Or am
Okay,
I
sorry,
frozen?
you don't.
Yeah. Next, please.
I don't know who was frozen. I only see. But do you say the fourth consultation, or you want the next slide?
The next slide.
Okay. Okay, I think we have some technical issues here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You see the slides, Sally?
I see the slides, but we're sort of stalled on the fifth principle of governance.
Okay, I see the consultation questions. Let me see.
Does
Okay,
everyone,
what you see now?
I still see there we are. Okay.
Okay.
So as with the previous consultations, we're asking each national and international committee, regional alliance and affiliated organizations to respond to this consultation. Each committee is being asked to fill out one online form, which has two sections. Can we go back to the previous slide on the consultation will last until the 30th of April. And next slide. Great, okay. There are two main questions in the consultation. The first is that we would like your overall impression of each principle, and then we would like specific comments on each of the statements in the principle. So for example, does principle 1 as a whole meet your expectations? And then do the statements and their descriptions of principle 1 meet your expectations? We ask for a yes or no answer, and whether you answer yes or no, we're also asking for you to make comments on each statement and their description. In this case, we're asking you also to make very specific comments on the language that we use, making suggestions for changes. In the last consultation, we asked for more general feedback. This time, we're asking for very specific feedback for improvement. Then, next slide. The second, I'm sorry, I forgot the other part of that. The second section of the consultation asks for your suggestions or for additions, if any, for the glossary. We have a list of words that we've identified that need to be defined in the glossary, but we would like your suggestions from reading through the second draft of the code of other words that should be used. So there are, in the code, there are 41 statements, which is a lot, but we hope that you'll find that some of them can go forward without changes. We hope that the form itself should not take that much time to fill out once you have consulted with your committee members and arrived at a consensus about the changes that need to be made. Some of the committees have asked if they need to consult all of their members, and we leave that up to each committee to decide. If there's a great deal of interest in the revision of the code among your membership, then you may wish to consult with all of your members. But you may also wish to just have a discussion among members of your board to come up with the answers. Either way works, whatever works best for you. We realize that the time for this consultation is relatively short. So it's up to each committee to come up with a way of responding to the consultation that's comfortable for them. Next slide. Can you advance the slides again, Kathrin?
Okay. I thought you want the timeline, or you see the next steps now?
The next steps in terms of how people should proceed. But what I'm seeing still is questions about the form.
Okay, so I see something different than you. So that's interesting. We have different perspectives, Sally. So now
Okay.
I'm seeing the timeline. Do you see it?
Okay. No, but I can go on further.
You can guess. You can guess where we are. Yeah.
I can. So next, sort of the question is, how should you proceed? Just please decide how you want to consult with your members and have a discussion with those you wish to work with to come up with the answers to your for your committee to the questionnaire. We're happy to have additional discussions if you want. It's really great that ICOM Norway and the Norwegian Museums Association has decided so early in the process of the consultation to have a webinar to discuss the revision of the code. So we're really pleased with that. But we'd like your responses by the 30th of April because we have many next steps to deal with. The fourth consultation will end at the end of April. After that, in early May, we will aggregate all of the responses and work on a data and content analysis so that we will be guided in making revisions in the second draft, which we hope we will be able to present to the EB, the Executive Board of ICOM, at the end of June. We'll also be making a presentation and giving an update on the fourth consultation at the Advisory Council meeting at the end of June. Then, assuming that we move forward with the next draft of the code, we will work on translating the code, completing the glossary, and also obviously editing the work so that the code will be ready for the general conference in Dubai for a vote. During the fall, we hope to have another global webinar where we will present the final draft of the code to the membership in advance of the meetings in Dubai. So we look forward at this point to hearing your suggestions for improvement on the second draft. And as with all previous consultations, I can't emphasize this enough, we will review all comments and incorporate them into a final revision that will be that will help us create the final draft. So next slide. So thank you very much for organizing this webinar today, and I look forward to hearing your comments. Chedlia, my colleague on the revision team, along with Kathrin, will answer any questions that you might have. and hope that we'll be able to help facilitate your responses to the code. We look forward very much to hearing from you. So.
Thank you very much, Sally, for the presentation. And as someone who has been quite on it, I can see that this was so much work, because you get, as we in Norway got Liv, Atle and I, we got all the comments from all of you museums in Norway, but Sally has to create a draft from all the responses from all over the world. And of course, different places in the world are very much interested in maybe different approaches, and everything has to be combined into one code of ethics, which goes for all museums in the whole world. And that's really not so easy. And as you presented, Sally, there are 41 statements, and some of them, they are really, if we would follow all of them, there would be really a huge change in boards, in museum leadership, in how you work with communities. So I think, and Sally, maybe you can confirm it, that there's quite a lot of things has happened and changed the last 10 years in museums, not only artificial intelligence, and digital, of course, digital media, online approaches, but the geopolitical situation today, the war in the Ukraine, which started, and of course, other places in the world, really affected this draft of the code. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, I would. I think it's, it is, we're trying very hard to make sure that the code is applicable worldwide, but as Kathrin said, it's very difficult because so many museums work in so many different circumstances. So we're trying to provide guidance for everyone, but in many cases that guidance may be aspirational rather than practical, given the particular situation of museums in a particular country. But we hope that we've captured the essence of what is important for museums, not just today, but thinking well into the future. We can only do that, however, with your participation, because we need to hear from all ICOM members as much as we can, their perspectives on what's important for working in their museum on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you. I just want to open the floor for questions now. Just one more comment, which hadn't been said yet. It's ICOM Norway who is collecting all your inputs. So I think all of you received the draft, or at least you have the possibility to get the last draft, the draft Sally is talking about, the second draft. What is a suggestion on the table now? How might the code look like? And all of you have the possibility to say yes, no, good, bad, but not directly to Sally, but to an ICOM Norway, which gathers all input, and then it will be sent further. So please take the possibility to be in touch, and I'm sure that ICOM Norway will also reach out to all of its members or the Norwegian Museum Association. So I think we open for questions now.